Hey, I'm still at work. I hope that the sound comes through. They're moving around a lot of big equipment, and any second now, I'm afraid a 9-inch piece of steel oil pipe is going to smash through my window and decapitate me because it's already hit my trailer a couple times. Kind of like a car accident every time it happens. But I'm just going to sit on this side of the trailer, and I should be okay. But I wanted to relate a conversation I had last night. See, I don't know if you can hear that. Like it's 20 feet from here, they're doing dangerous things. Anyway, I leave my Facebook basically on all night when I'm at work. Not always chatting with people, but it's always there. And right out of the blue, an old friend from college contacted me now. We weren't really close friends, but we were suite mates for a year. You know, I mean, we did normal college things where you'd have little debates and discussions. And once or twice after we weren't suite mates anymore, we met up. He wanted to ask me about some of my politics, or one time he asked me about investing in silver. This was way back in 2005. He didn't take my advice, and what can I say? Anyway, the reason I want to talk about it is because some of the things he said I found absolutely astounding. Now, he is a liberal. He loves Obama. He says he adores Obama. He adores everything about him. And this is interesting because this is a guy who didn't become a liberal in any normal sense. In fact, when we were suite mates, it was 2004, and he had a big Bush Cheney sign in his window for everybody to see. And he was, I think he was even a delegate, a state delegate for Bush. And then in 2007, he was a Ron Paul supporter. He voted in the primary for Ron Paul. He encouraged other people to do so. And very soon after that, he decided that markets don't, that healthcare is a market failure, and the only solution is government reform, which in his mind meant government takeover. And he immediately became like a spell was cast over him by Obama. I mean, he just loves Obama like unbelievably much. And I saw through his updates on Facebook that he had become this way. I didn't really debate him because we weren't really close friends, and I'm not going to get in a huge argument with somebody over something like that. But anyway, so he just talked to me last night, and I'm also reluctant to debate him because in addition to being a liberal, he is a doctor. He went to medical school, and he just finished, and I think he has a doctor position now. And of course, I kind of felt like I didn't want to get my ass handed to me in a debate about healthcare with a doctor. But as it turns out, I was wrong to think that I would lose a debate with him about healthcare. So we started talking, and the first thing is he said he loved Obama, and I said, well, how about all those wars? How are they going? You know, the expansion in Afghanistan, throughout Afghanistan into Pakistan, missile strikes in Yemen, in Somalia, Libya, the continuation of the war in Iraq. How about all that? And he is against the wars. It's interesting. You think that maybe since he was a Bush supporter, he would favor the wars, as some Democrats do, and he doesn't. He does not say that we need to stay there, any of that bullcrap. But he just says, well, and I'm like, how do you reconcile this? I mean, you say you love Obama. I mean, he says he loves Obama. And I say, okay, but Obama is butchering people like by the thousands, innocent people mostly. And even the few people who aren't innocent, they're probably justified in resisting our military in most cases. And his response to that was, foreign policy just doesn't interest me anymore. Okay, I have a real problem with this. Basically, he's telling me he doesn't care how many people Obama kills, even if they're innocent, as long as he gives Medicare to somebody. Now, I asked him, how many people is he allowed to kill before you even, hold it against him? He goes, I haven't even thought about it. He doesn't care. I mean, he says he's against the wars and that they're bad and that they need to end. He goes, they need to end. I'm like, well, Obama's had, what, 3 years now? 3 years. He hasn't even tried to end them. And there's a mountain of skulls in the Middle East thanks to him. But he doesn't care because he's going to help the little guy. That's what he says. Now, even accepting that what Obama does helps the little guy, which is false. But let's accept that premise for now. How on the earth is helping a little guy in America worth murdering people in other countries by the thousands? That doesn't make any sense, and I can't believe that people who consider themselves compassionate, caring, high-minded liberals can so easily condone mass murder as long as there's a little welfare increase in this country. And that's exactly what he was saying. Now, then we moved on to healthcare specifically, and he said, well, it's too expensive and it always gets too expensive. And I said, well, isn't it true that government regulations have made it more expensive? And at first he wasn't sure, and I said, well, did not the AMA lobby for licensing so they increase their wages? And he admitted this, to his credit. He said, yes, that's true. And he admitted to many other, I said there's regulations on how many hospitals that can be built, how many people can go to medical school, what the requirements are for medical school. Of course, he agrees with this because he's in debt now because of medical school. And then I said, well, it's not only that. The government has directed rivers of government money into the health market, which of course is going to push up prices, all things being equal. And I tried to get him to believe this with a thought experiment. And I said, well, what would happen if tomorrow Obama gave a speech and said every American deserves a riding lawnmower, and he's going to give loans or just free money to anybody who wants to get a riding lawnmower? What do you think would happen to the price of riding lawnmowers? And he said that's dumb because yeah, the price would go up, but then more people would start building riding lawnmowers, and so then the price would come down. I said, yeah, it's true, except there's a cartel and you can't build more medical facilities. You can't increase the supply. There's a bottleneck that the government's created. And he's like, oh, I guess. And we went on, and I said, oh, and then there's the other thing where government has subsidized and encouraged third-party payer through health insurance. I asked him if he knew when it was that health insurance became the main way people paid. He said he didn't know, and I said, well, it was in World War II when they put wage and price controls. Businesses could not pay more, so as they would add perks, and the most common perk was health benefits. Government didn't tax health benefits, so when the war ended, employers were incentivized to include that in their pay packages, where before they didn't. And he accepted this, and he understood, okay. And so you have this double whammy where the government is restricting the supply and raising the cost of the supply, while at the same time dumping tons of money into it. We didn't even get into the FDA. That's the other big thing. And that inevitably is going to push prices up and up and up and up and up, making it less affordable for everybody. He said that I was persuasive. He didn't offer. I asked him, why do you think that it's so expensive? And he said, because of greed. And I said, okay. I mean, this is a doctor. You'd think that this guy would be really smart. He'd have a better answer than some ridiculous retort like that. And I said, well, wait a second. Why aren't all businesses going more expensive? Isn't people who make cell phones and computers, they're greedy too, right? Yes. Okay, so why don't the price of those items go up? I don't know. Is the government greedy? Yes. Good liberal. He actually will admit, yes, the government is greedy. If the government is greedy and corporations are greedy, what's the basis for choosing one or the other? And then he went on to say that big business doesn't care for people. And I said, yeah. And Obama signed a law that requires every single American to buy money from pay big insurance companies. That's a subsidy. And I said, you realize that most big businesses, their entire model is predicated on government subsidizing them directly or indirectly, usually by restricting competition, which he was incredulous. He just couldn't believe that was true, but he offered no evidence to the contrary. I recommended books to him, especially The Triumph of Conservatism by Gabriel Kokol. Of course, he says he's too busy to read that sort of thing. So, and then the other thing, he definitely needs to read the law, too. He's from Detroit. I'm from Michigan. He's from Detroit. I'm not from Detroit, but he is. And he says that Obama, quote, saved Detroit by the auto bailout. And the auto bailout was a good thing because it saved Detroit. And I said, when we were talking about medical care, I said, well, would it be a good thing if they passed a law saying everybody had to buy a GM car? If they passed a law saying everybody had to buy a GM, would that be good? And he said, yes, it'd be good for Detroit. And I said, what about the people who don't need a car, can't afford a car, and don't want a car? Would it be good for them? And he said, no. And I said, well, did you consider that when you decided that that would be a good plan? And he said, no, I didn't consider that. And you could just see it in the window behind me, the pipes going up. I said, well, if you're going to advocate that position, you need to consider the cost too, not just who benefits. And he goes, yeah, you're probably right. And he said, I mean, to his credit, he said I was being very persuasive, but look, here's a liberal, he's a doctor. He actually testified. I don't know in what capacity. He actually testified at the hearings before they passed Obamacare. I think he went with a group of people who went. I don't know if he was ever actually at a mic. And so you think, oh man, this guy must really have good arguments in favor of this. And he didn't have any arguments except for the most cliched, irrational, inconsistent ones about greed. Oh, he said customers can't shop around. Competition won't work in medical care because consumers don't know enough. They're too ignorant. And I said, well, do you know how to build a car? Do you know how to make a car engine? He's like, no. I'm like, can you shop around for a car? And he's like, yes. And then I said, what do you mean we can't shop around? And he said, well, what if you have a problem with your, and he named some organ. He's a doctor. He knew the name of some, I don't know if it was an organ or not, something I didn't know what it was. And I said, yeah, that's really easy to shop around for that. All you do is you call Dr. A and you say, Dr. A, how much does it cost to get my obscurely named organ fixed? And then they quote you a price. And then you call Dr. B and you say, Dr. B, how much does it cost to get my, whatever fixed? That's all it takes. That's shopping around. That's how you do it. You don't need to know all the details. I don't need to know how to build a computer to get an estimate how to fix one. All right? I don't need to know. That's the whole beauty of the division of labor. Free market capitalism isn't predicated or does not require that consumers have perfect knowledge. And of course, this isn't a mistake only liberals make. Some Chicago people make the same mistake. It's not necessary. Sure, it would be nice, but actually, I mean, if people had perfect knowledge, then we'd have perfect equilibrium. There'd be no uncertainty at all. There'd be no. I mean, that's that would imply that we were all omniscient, which is silly. It's not required. So, I guess a couple points to come away with. Here's a guy, highly educated. He's a doctor. Really nice, compassionate guy. Except for foreigners, who I guess can be slaughtered in the millions, and it's okay, like I said, as long as Obama gives us a good speech about helping the little guy. And that part was sickening. And the other part is the complete, not only ignorance of economics, but not even to think logically or rationally about the implications of the policy. To not even consider something like an auto bailout that we're forced to pay for that, and just ignore that and just say, oh, someone's going to get money for it. It's extremely distressing, and I have to say that this guy is probably better than most liberals. He did concede a lot. He was intellectually honest. He did admit that I made good points. He said he would think about it. I'd like to talk to him again. We had to do it on Facebook chat, which is extremely constraining. At least to me, I'm not a very good typer thanks to my government school education, or lack thereof. A horrible speller, which didn't help my persuasion at all. But anyway, it was kind of saddening. It's kind of cliche now. We all realize that the left, by and large, with some exceptions, just love the guy, Obama, or whoever his replacement will be. And they couldn't care less about how many people he butchers. It's akin, I'm not going to go into it, but it's very similar to when liberals and even conservatives will say World War II is great. It shows how good the government is, and that's interesting because World War II is the single greatest mountain of skulls, the most miserable event in the history of the world, the most destructive, genocidal, horrible, bloodthirsty butchery that the entire world has seen, probably on an order of magnitude, and they would point to that as a reason why socialism is a good idea, is absolutely astounding. And yet they do it anyway.